Hello everyone, and welcome to a special bonus video that I decided to post to celebrate the new year. You may have guessed what film I'm discussing based on the video title. New Year's Evil is a so bad it's good slasher film written and directed by Emmett Alston, and released in 1980. And it shows! It centers around a serial killer who threatens to kill a woman at each midnight across the US time zones on New Year's Eve, with our protagonist being the final victim. Despite its intriguing premise and cult following, New Year's Evil is often remembered as pretty bad if not forgettable, so I decided to rewatch it to try and figure out why. Is the general consensus too harsh? Let's find out. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
The movie begins with Blaze, a rock and roll DJ who is preparing for her New Year's Eve countdown show, Hollywood Hotline. Blaze is portrayed by Roz Kelly, who is perhaps best known for her role as Fonzie's girlfriend Pinky in Happy Days. She expresses her frustration to her assistant Yvonne about her husband Richard not being available in time for the show. However, while Yvonne is getting ready in the bathroom, someone attempts to enter and Yvonne is attacked off screen. I suppose this is meant to be our cold open, and I must admit, the pacing feels a bit slow. However, I appreciate that it's different from other cold openings. Yvonne's fate is left ambiguous for now, but you can put two and two together as, this is a horror film. I guess the filmmakers were trying to create a sense of tension here, which kinda works. We then get our opening credits overlaid with footage of the busy city getting ready for New Year's Eve. We also get our first taste of the film's theme song, written by Roxanne Seaman and Eddie Del Barrio, and performed by the band Shadow. This will get played many more times throughout the film and is extremely catchy. We also see a bunch of 80s alternative people going about the city and queuing to buy tickets for the show. Blaze is visited by her creepy son Derek, who is played by Grant Kramer. He brings her flowers and she mostly ignores him when he tries to nerd out about a role he got in an upcoming sci-fi show. He also seems pretty upset that his dad hasn't shown up. I do feel sorry for him here, but there's just something about him that reminds me of Denny from The Room. Part of Hollywood Hotline's gimmick is that viewers can call in to vote for their favourite song of the year, and unfortunately one of these callers has malicious intent. This weirdo is our titular antagonist, a serial killer calling himself evil. He tells Blaze that he will kill someone she knows at midnight, and Blaze hangs up before Shadow performs again. Blaze understandably feels threatened, and a shadowy figure sneaks into a sanitarium Mission Impossible style. The way these kinds of places are portrayed on screen, especially in films from this era, always makes me feel a bit down, but I'm trying to keep this commentary lighthearted. On a first-time viewing, one could assume that one of the patients was our killer or a victim, but no, it's actually one of the nurses, Janie. Evil tells Janie that he's a new transfer called Jeff Winters, and he tries to charm her with a friendly persona. He takes her to a room so they can drink champagne for New Year's in private, with some dodgy guitar playing in the background. Long story short, he kills her with a switchblade, stabbing her just off screen with the shot alternating between people celebrating the new year. She wasn't friends with Blaze, was she? Meanwhile, the police arrive and try to victim blame Blaze. They agree to help, but tell her that it's her own fault for cultivating an alternative audience. Also not fair towards the scene, but I guess it does reflect attitudes at the time. Evil calls Blaze again, playing back a recording of the murder, and tells her that he's going to kill someone every midnight across the US. Janie's body is found, and we see Derek doing some weird roleplay act with a switchblade in the mirror. Could he be evil, you may wonder? Spoiler alert, but no. He spends most of the film in this room, so it can't be him.
I think I have a mental disorder.
Yeah, that's made pretty evident throughout the film, and I think it's trying to get at something Freudian here. It's all very vague. Evil goes to a bar donning a sketchy moustache, and he tells this poor woman, Sally, that he's Eric Estrada's business manager, and invites her to go with him.
At least I wouldn't get crushed to death.
That I guarantee.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Sally brings her roommate Lisa along and bores Evil by rambling about transcendental meditation and haikus. Afraid to miss his deadline, Evil stops at a gas station and then strangles Sally with a plastic bag. Lisa comes out to find the car gone and is then attacked by Evil while trying to find Sally. Her distress at realizing her friend's fate is genuinely sad, not played for laughs at all. Now disguising himself as a priest with some very of-the-time glasses, Evil hunts for his next victim. He hides in a drive-in movie theatre after a confrontation with a motorcycle gang, and steals a couple's car, with the girl still inside. She begs for her life as they drive to a wooded area, with the police hot on their tail. Evil tries to play some cat and mouse game with her, but he flees before being able to cause her any physical harm.
Miss? Miss, are you okay?
Whoever you are, thank you.
Blaze is told by the forensic detective that she's probably Evil's final intended victim, just as that very killer breaks into the studio where Hollywood Hotline is being filmed. As she's changing in her room, Evil approaches wearing this weird mask that this movie is kinda known for. However, it appears that Blaze knows him. It was her husband Richard all along.
What a twist!
Despite his approachable demeanour, the officers are still suspicious of Evil, or rather, Richard, who messes with the lift while Blaze is in there with an officer. It comes crashing to the floor, and Richard appears, showing her the recordings he made of his killings, telling her that he's fed up with her.
Ladies are not very nice people. They are manipulative and deceitful and immoral and very, very selfish.
I'm about to beat this bitch up.
I dunno, I think killing innocent strangers is pretty selfish. Essentially, he feels emasculated by Blaze and believes she's doing the same to their son. Blaze definitely appears to be an absent mother, maybe a workaholic type, but she doesn't deserve to die. Why not try to confront her about the issue civilly? Who am I kidding? This is a slasher movie, the characters don't know reason. Richard chains and handcuffs Blaze to the lift's hoist mechanism, intending to crush her when it reaches the top, leading to a shootout with the officers, their bullets hitting the lift's control panel. They chase Richard to the roof, where he puts on the evil mask and jumps to his death.
And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to.
Shut when you think about it.
As Blaze is taken to hospital, Derek is understandably torn up about this whole thing, and takes over as ambulance driver while wearing the evil mask. Even if he wasn't the original killer, this cliffhanger suggests he may follow in his father's footsteps. And with that, the credits roll with that catchy theme playing once more. So, what did I think of New Year's Evil? It's an interesting movie, definitely a product of its time. I find it particularly intriguing that the film is much more grounded in reality compared to other slashers, and while the way the explanations are expressed may be a bit outdated, Richard's motivations aren't that far-fetched. In his monologue, he voices his feelings of inferiority and resentment towards Blaze, something that is suggested to have been building up over many years. He seems to think that he has failed as a man, and fears Derek is going down the same path. Instead of addressing and dealing with these issues in a productive way, like going to therapy, he takes his anger out on strangers and backs himself and his family into a corner. Blaze, on the other hand, seems to be struggling to maintain her personal and professional life at the same time. While she doesn't deserve such a terrible fate, her neglect of Derek isn't fair, and the kid seems badly affected by his parents' actions. He seems to snap by the film's conclusion. The psychological route the film takes is quite refreshing compared to your standard spooky guy kills teenagers plotline. Now, this film is definitely an 80s movie. You can tell by the synth and rock-heavy soundtrack, the characters' dress sense, and the continuous use of disco lights, which makes this very clear. The only movie I can think of that was this in your face with this kind of stuff is The Howling 2, but I'd rather not try to recall that mess of a movie too much. Despite its cult following nowadays, New Year's Evil has often been regarded as a pretty bad movie since its release. Roger Ebert called it not very good and unpleasantly bloody, which may be a controversial statement given the amount of gore utilised in films that were released just 20 years later. It has an audience score of 15% on Rotten Tomatoes and a critic score of 25%, which surprised me as I wasn't expecting it to be so low. Even so, the audience reviews seem very mixed. It's intriguing that other early holiday slashers like the original Black Christmas and John Carpenter's Halloween are much better remembered than New Year's Evil. Both of these movies are considered culturally significant and are staples among horror fans, whereas New Year's Evil seems to take a back seat. At first, I struggled to figure out why this was the case other than New Year's Evil being quite cheesy in parts. But when I thought about what each had contributed to film, it became clearer. For example, Black Christmas introduced the idea of using a holiday setting for horror, and Halloween popularized the final girl trope while delivering an iconic and memorable score. Both films are much more atmospheric and leave more to the imagination in terms of backstory, whereas New Year's Evil literally spells it out to the audience. Overall, this rewatch has left me with pretty mixed feelings about this holiday horror flick. Is it the best film in the world? No. It lacks the thematic depth that came with its predecessors, which has definitely impacted its legacy. But there are definitely worse films out there, and I would recommend it to anyone who is a fan of cheesy 80s slasher films. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching. Happy New Year, everyone!
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time. Cause Polos is life, 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 Polos is life. Sleep all night.